What if I told you the best way to break a dead silent day on the water is to make as much noise as possible? Not with your boat, but with your lure. It sounds completely backward, right? Today, we're smashing one of the oldest rules in the book. The idea that you need to be quiet when the fish are. I'm going to show you why your loudest, most obnoxious, rattling crankbait might just be the key to unlocking a tough bite that finesse tactics can't touch. And stick around, because I'll reveal the one specific condition where this aggressive approach will outfish a subtle presentation 10 to 1. So let me know in the comments right now, when the bite is tough, do you go loud or do you go quiet? Let's be honest. For generations, we've been taught that when the water is calm and the bite is off, you go into stealth mode. Downsize your line, use natural colors, and for heaven's sake, don't throw anything that makes a racket. The logic seems sound, right? You don't want to spook fish that are already on edge. We've all done it. We tie on that little Ned rig or a subtle swim bait and just methodically pick apart a spot, hoping for the best. But this match-the-mood philosophy often leads to hours of casting with absolutely zero results. The truth is, trying to be quiet and unassuming is often the worst thing you can do when baits are inactive. And today, we're going to prove why. First, let's break down why that match-the-mood approach fails so often. When a bait is actively feeding, it's hunting. Its senses are on high alert, and its strike zone is massive. It'll move 10, 15, even 20 feet to chase down a meal. In that scenario, a subtle lure works perfectly because the fish is already looking for it. But when the bite is dead, that fish is not actively feeding. It's lethargic. It might be suspended, tucked into thick cover, or just sitting on the bottom, conserving energy. Its world, and more importantly, its strike zone, has shrunk down to just a few feet, or sometimes even a few inches. It's not in the mood to hunt. Now imagine you're casting your small, silent, natural-looking lure. You're trying to appeal to a fish's hunger. But here's the problem. That fish isn't hungry. It has zero motivation to move. Your quiet little lure drifts by its nose, just outside its tiny strike zone. Does the bait see it? Maybe. Does it care? Absolutely not. It's the equivalent of offering a salad to someone who just finished a massive Thanksgiving dinner. There is no incentive for that fish to expend the energy to bite. You're essentially trying to have a polite conversation with someone who doesn't want to talk. Your presentation is too easy to ignore, and that's why you go home empty-handed. This is the fundamental flaw in finesse fishing during a truly dead bite. Finesse presentations are designed to fool a fish that is, at some level, willing to be fooled. They work on neutral or semi-active fish, but when fish are completely shut down, your lure is basically invisible. Think about it from the fish's perspective. It's sitting there, in a low-energy state, and something small and quiet swims past. It registers as just another piece of the background. It doesn't trigger any response because it doesn't present itself as a threat or an easy meal worth pursuing. You could throw that perfect lure 100 times and get the exact same result. Nothing. You're playing the wrong game. So, if trying to persuade them doesn't work, what's the alternative? You have to force the issue, and you do that by provoking a completely different kind of strike. We're not talking about a hunger strike anymore. We're talking about a reaction strike. A reaction strike is not a calculated decision to eat. It is a pure, primal, neurological impulse. It's the predator's instinct kicking in without conscious thought. It's a bite that happens out of aggression, territoriality, or sheer surprise. The fish doesn't bite because it wants to eat your lure. It bites because it can't help itself. Its brain is hardwired to attack something that behaves in a specific, provocative way. Let's draw a clear line between a hunger strike and a reaction strike. A hunger strike is a conscious decision. The fish identifies your lure as a potential food source, assesses it, decides it's worth the effort, and then commits. This is what finesse tactics appeal to. A reaction strike bypasses that entire decision-making process. Your lure appears so suddenly or acts so erratically in the fish's personal space that the fish's brain screams, "Threat," or "Intruder," or even "Fleeing prey I can't let get away." The strike is the result. The fish often bites first and asks questions later. Understanding this distinction is the absolute key to unlocking those tough days on the water. Here's a perfect real-world analogy. Picture a lazy house cat napping in a sunbeam. If you dangle a toy mouse gently in front of its face, it might blink at you, but it probably won't move. It's not in the mood to play. That's your finesse lure. Now imagine you take that same toy mouse and zip it erratically right past its whiskers at high speed. What happens? The cat pounces. It doesn't think about it. It just reacts. Its predatory instinct takes over. That is precisely what you are trying to do with a loud, obnoxious lure to a lethargic bass. You're not trying to tempt it. You're trying to startle it into action. To trigger this reaction, we need a powerful tool, and that tool is sound. Many anglers underestimate just how important sound is underwater. Water is an incredible conductor of sound, far more efficient than air. A fish's primary sensory organ for detecting vibration is its lateral line. It can feel, not just hear, disturbances in the water from a great distance. When you're using a silent lure, the only vibration it's putting off is from the water moving over its body, which is a very subtle signature. It's a whisper in a quiet room. But a loud lure, that's a different story entirely. Your lure's rattle isn't just random noise. It's a specific set of frequencies and vibrations being broadcast through the water. Lipless crankbaits, for example, often have a very high-pitched, tight rattle. A big deep-diving crankbait might have a low, deep, knocking sound from one or two large ball bearings. These different sounds create distinct signatures in the water. They are the equivalent of a fire alarm going off in an office building. It's a sound that is impossible for a nearby fish to ignore. It cuts through the silence and immediately gets the fish's attention, whether it wants to pay attention or not. This sound acts as a beacon. In a silent, low-activity environment, that loud rhythmic rattling is an anomaly. It signals that something is alive and moving in the area. For a lethargic bass tucked away in a bush or sitting on a rock pile, this is a call to attention. It might not be hungry, but its curiosity or predatory nature is piqued. It will often move from its hiding spot to investigate the source of the commotion. The loud lure has already done a job the silent lure couldn't. It made the fish aware of its presence and drew it closer, expanding its own effective strike zone. Now we move from simple attraction to outright aggression. This is what I call the intrusion principle. Once you have the fish's attention with the sound, the next step is to invade its personal space in a way that demands a response. You are no longer trying to imitate a crawfish or a minnow. Your lure is now an intruder. It's a loud, flashy, annoying thing that has barged into the bass's living room and is knocking over the furniture. The goal is to be so obnoxious and so threatening that the bass has no choice but to lash out and attack it to make it leave. Think about it like this. If someone walks quietly past your house on the sidewalk, you probably don't even notice. That's a silent lure. But what if someone walks up onto your porch and starts rattling your doorknob aggressively? You're going to respond. You're going to open that door, angry and ready for a confrontation. That's exactly what your loud crankbait is doing when you rip it through a submerged tree or bounce it off the bottom right next to where a bass is sitting. You are rattling its doorknob, and its only response is to come out fighting. This is a powerful, powerful concept. The beauty of this principle is that a bass's territoriality often trumps its lethargy. A bass is an apex predator. It defends its chosen territory, its piece of cover, or its spawning bed with extreme prejudice. Even when it's not feeding due to weather changes or fishing pressure, that deep-seated instinct to protect its home remains. By presenting your lure as a direct, noisy threat to that home, you tap into that instinct. You're not asking it to eat, you're challenging it to a fight. And for a base, the way to win a fight is to bite whatever is challenging it. So, when is the absolute perfect time to employ this loud and obnoxious strategy? The number one scenario is the classic post-frontal bluebird sky day. A cold front has just rolled through, the temperature has dropped, and the sky is bright blue without a cloud in sight. The barometric pressure is high and rising. For fishermen, this is the kiss of death. It's the day when you hear everyone at the boat ramp complaining that the fish have lockjaw. And in a way, they're right. The fish are not actively feeding. They are stressed, hunkered down tight to cover, and completely inactive. On these high-pressure days, the fish's metabolism slows down. They get into the thickest cover they can find, deep brush piles, dense weed beds, or tight against dock pilings, and they just sit there. They are not going to move a long distance to chase a meal. This is the exact scenario where that finesse lure we talked about earlier becomes completely and utterly useless. You can drag a shaky head past that brush pile all day long, and the base inside will not even acknowledge its existence. It poses no threat and offers no reward worth the energy. This is where most anglers give up. But this is not the time to give up. This is the time to bring out the big guns. This is the moment to tie on that loud, rattling, aggressive lure. Instead of trying to coax the fish out, you are going to force your way in. You're going to take a deep-diving crankbait and intentionally grind it through the branches of that brush pile. You're going to take a lipless crankbait and rip it through the top of that submerged grass. The combination of the loud noise and the erratic, deflecting action is the only thing that will get a response from a fish in that negative mood. It's a pure reaction. So, which specific lures should be in your arsenal for this job? Let's start with a classic, the lipless crankbait, something like a rattle trap or a red-eye shad. These lures are famous for their loud, high-frequency rattles and their tight, vibrating action. They are phenomenal tools for covering water and triggering reaction strikes. You can burn them over flats, but their real magic on tough days is ripping them through vegetation. The act of tearing the lure free from the grass is an incredibly effective trigger that inactive bass just can't stand. It's an explosion of noise and action they have to attack. Another must-have is a deep-diving crankbait with a loud, deep rattle. Not the silent, subtle models, but the ones you can hear rattling from 10 feet away. The key here is to use a bait that dives deeper than the water you're fishing. If you're in 10 feet of water, use a bait that dives to 14 or 16 feet. This ensures that the bait is constantly digging into the bottom, grinding over rocks and deflecting off stumps. That violent, erratic change of direction combined with the loud knocking sound is something a territorial base simply cannot tolerate in its space. The deflection is the trigger. And let's not forget about topwater, because making a commotion on the surface can be just as effective. A big, loud walking bait like a Zara spook or a noisy popper can call fish up from a surprising depth, even in the middle of a bright, sunny day. The key is to work it aggressively. You're not going for a subtle walk-the-dog motion. You're creating a chaotic splash, a loud rhythm that signals an easy, struggling meal or an annoying intruder on the surface. It can be just the ticket to provoke a strike from a fish that would ignore anything presented below it. Now, it's critically important to understand that it's not just about the lure you choose, it's about how you retrieve it. You cannot fish these reaction baits slowly and methodically. That defeats the entire purpose. The goal is to surprise the fish, to give it no time to think or analyze the lure. Your retrieve needs to be fast, erratic, and unpredictable. You are intentionally trying to look unnatural. A slow, steady retrieve makes the lure look fake. A fast, erratic retrieve makes it look like it's panicking and trying to escape, which flips that predatory switch. This means you should be burning that lipless crankbait back to the boat, and when it hits a piece of grass, don't gently pull it free. rip it out with a hard snap of the rod. With a diving crankbait, reel it fast until it hits a piece of cover, then pause for a split second before burning it again. With a topwater, use sharp, aggressive twitches to make it splash and dart wildly. The entire presentation should be violent and chaotic. You are trying to create a moment of pure instinct, and that only happens when you force the fish to make a split-second decision. Speed and erratic action are your best friends. So, to wrap it all up, the biggest takeaway is this. On those dead silent, tough-as-nails days, stop thinking like you're trying to offer a meal and start thinking like you're an intruder. When fish are inactive and not feeding, a subtle, quiet lure is just one more piece of scenery for them to ignore. But a loud, aggressive, obnoxious lure that crashes through their living room? That is an invasion of their personal space. It's a challenge they are programmed to respond to. The real aha moment is realizing you are not trying to convince a fish to eat. You are trying to annoy it, threaten it, and provoke it into biting. That single shift in mindset can completely change your lure selection and your success on the water. It can literally save a fishless day and turn it into a memorable one. It's about having the confidence to go against the grain and make some noise when everyone else is whispering. Thanks for watching. If this shattered a few old fishing myths for you, do me a favor and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe for more tips that actually work. Now for the big question. What's the loudest, most ridiculous lure in your tackle box that actually catches fish? Drop the name and a story in the comments below. I can't wait to read them.